Hello, Hereford. Welcome to the 2024-2025 school year. It's your favorite principal, Mr. Covert, and with me today I have...
Good morning, it's Mrs. Book.
Welcome back. It's going to be a great school year, but we have to take time, as always, to talk about the student handbook and the expectations that we have for all students so that it can be a great year for everyone. So the purpose of today's presentation is to go through the student handbook. You all should have received one in homeroom today, and we're going to go through it with you just to make sure you know what is expected of you and then how you can ask questions of any of the expectations moving forward. The handbook is broken into several sections. It talks about your rights and responsibilities, the code of conduct, social emotional support, discipline, strategies that we can do to help you, confidentiality, and many other things, including bullying, harassment, drugs and alcohol abuse, and child neglect. So we may not cover everything in this presentation, but do know that you're responsible for all of those things and knowing the procedures. The superintendent has 4 focus areas that are outlined not only in the student handbook, but in other documents in Baltimore County. Those 4 focus areas are academic achievement, infrastructure, healthy, effective teachers, leaders, staff, and then safety and climate. And today we're really going to talk about the safety and climate part. There are lots of people in our school that can help you with safety and climate, but there are also many other staff members in the county as a whole to help keep you safe. They include the director of school climate, there's student conduct hearing officers, school safety managers. Here at our school we have safety assistants. There's a Title IX coordinator for the county, and various other professionals that are here to help. Please use all resources here in the school so that we can make sure we get you the appropriate support to have a safe school climate. So today you're going to look at your handbook and you'll notice rights and responsibilities for students. Your rights, shout out to your government teachers. They probably talk to you a lot about student rights and privacy and governance. Look through that in the student handbook, and if you have questions, ask one of us administrators. Also, there's responsibilities, things like attendance, understanding the discipline process, free speech, dress code, and so forth. We talk about this a lot as we work with students throughout the year, and much of what we're talking about today has to do with these responsibilities. The handbook today, and much of what we talk about, will be governed by BCPS policy and rule. The policies are listed up there for you, from 5500 all the way down to 5561. This is really where the student handbook is based, and all of these policies and rules. You're welcome to reference them today, but also know that the student handbook itself is really based on them anyway. So we'll start with 5550. This is a general code of conduct for students, and you have 5 main things that you should be doing every day. You should attend classes daily and be on time. You should engage in the learning process. You should be prepared with appropriate materials. You should demonstrate positive language and behavior towards all students and staff, and you should accept responsibility for your actions. Policy 5550 also talks about student behavior, and sometimes, as we're growing and maturing, we tend to make mistakes. And so students that can't follow the conduct policy, there are 3 different categories of offenses. Category 1 are less serious offenses. They could result in a suspension, but they also could be handled in a variety of different interventions. Category 2 are more serious issues or mistakes, and they could result in a suspension or even an extended suspension. Category 3 are the most serious offenses, and they can result in a variety of interventions, including suspension, extended suspension, expulsion, or even charges from the police department. As a principal, my job is to determine the consequence for students and assign those that are appropriate. Scope of authority is something that we often have questions about from students. Scope of authority applies to how can administrators and where can administrators apply consequences. So misbehavior off campus can still have an impact on your school interventions. Off-campus behaviors Interventions can apply to field trips, extracurricular activities, social events, school bus stop, and walking to and from school. It is important that we keep you safe in all of these places on top of the school environment. Policy 5561 talks about reportable offenses. Sometimes crimes that are committed in a neighborhood may result in removal of a student from a school if it's of very serious nature, contributes to the student being an imminent threat to the school, or perpetrated against the student who also attends school. BCPS is a very strong working relationship with the police department, and they report all student arrests to the school. So please understand that incidents in the community may also impact a student and their attendance at a BCPS school. We talked briefly about suspensions. There are two types of suspensions. There are local suspensions, which are suspensions from 1 to 10 days, and those are administered by me as principal. There are board suspensions, which are much more significant suspensions. Those go through the student conduct hearing officer. They can last from 1 to 44 days as an extended suspension, or be an expulsion lasting more than 45 days. For all local suspensions, appeals would go through the Executive Director of School Support. For board suspensions, the Board of Education hears those appeals. More information on discipline process can be found on pages 18 to 21 in your student handbook, and we highly recommend that you look over the whole handbook with your parents. Under no circumstances can firearms be on any school property. Any student who brings firearms onto a school property will be expelled for a minimum of 1 year. It's a Category 3 offense and is written explicitly on the screen, but also in your handbook. Also, students who bring look-alike guns or things like pellet guns, paintballs, 4B guns, BB guns, water guns, etc., also could face suspension because look-alike guns can be just as dangerous as toy guns, especially when police are reporting to a scene. It's also important to note when we're talking about guns on campus that all Baltimore County Public Schools have surveillance cameras inside and outside of the building. Attached to our camera software is gun detection software. And when it detects a gun or a look-alike gun, it will send an alert not only to school personnel, but by the Baltimore County Police. So please do not bring any of these look-alike guns or real guns on campus, whether it's during the school day, after the school day, or on weekends, because this gun detection software will alert authorities. You received information, and your parents have received information about our cell phone policy. You'll notice this year we're part of the BCPS cell phone pilot. Students will be expected to put their cell phones and smartwatches in the collection device, the bin, when they enter the class, and it will stay in there during class. They can retrieve it at the end of it. The same goes for enrichment. Students can also have their phones, however, during hall changes, before school, after school, and during lunch. But the big picture is your phones must be in the bin and away during instruction. You can see on the right side of the screen that we have a very structured approach to handling cell phone violations. They start with a couple warnings from teachers and phone calls to parents, and then after that, they become referrals to the administrators, and we start doing interventions like detention, parent meetings, and so forth. Please keep your phones away. As you all know, they can be a big distraction to learning. So help us out with enforcing this policy and having a successful school year. Along with electronic devices, you all are given a Chromebook from BCPS. It's your responsibility to maintain that Chromebook and keep it in working order. Starting this school year, BCPS will be charging students for any loss or damages to their Chromebook. On the screen, you can see there are several different tiers of damage and examples of damage and associated costs. If there is damage that is to your device, you need to bring it to Mr. Fellows during enrichment, He will assess the damage and then talk with administration about assigning appropriate fine for whatever the damage may be so that it can be repaired. Your parent will then be notified via email of the fine with instructions on how to pay the fine. Also, as we switch to this new level of student accountability, students will have a 2-week grace period to get anything fixed or swap out their device. There'll be more information about this as it comes, but if you notice you have a broken key, a cracked screen, a touchpad that doesn't work, or a variety of other things, please listen to the announcements for where you can go to swap your device. There'll be several opportunities to do so in the next 2 weeks, but it must be done before the end of the second week of school. School buses. Don't forget, riding a school bus is a privilege, and there is a code of conduct for buses. Students who continue to make poor choices and not follow the code of conduct on the bus may be temporarily or permanently suspended from their bus. Please keep your bus safe. Your bus drivers have a very difficult job. Allow them to do their job, which is to get you home safely, and you'll have a great school year. But also do not forget that your school bus has a camera that captures video and audio, and we are able to pull that camera footage in case incidents arise. We talked about this previously, but I think it's important that we bring it up again this year. A student who refuses to be searched at the school can receive a disciplinary action, including suspension, for not following directions of the administrator. It's really important that we keep a safe school, and one of the tools that we use can be student search. So it's important that students follow through when that is needed. All drugs cannot be on campus. It includes illegal drugs, look-alike drugs, fake drugs, may include Delta 8 or any of those things that you may see at local vape shops. None of those can be here. And even though state law allows adults to use marijuana or cannabis products, they are not allowed on campus or to be used on campus. Students are also prohibited from edibles or any other forms of these drugs. Students who leave campus or allow unauthorized visitors on campus may also face appropriate consequences. Also, speaking of leaving campus, if you leave campus, you could be denied re-entry to school grounds and find a way home. It is a huge safety risk for students to leave campus and come back. So we must make sure that students, when they're supposed to be here, stay here. Also, if you are a student who is suspended from school, you are not permitted on our school grounds or any other BCPS property during that suspension. That includes sports games, rec events, or any other thing on a BCPS property. And also, please remember that recording or airdropping fights or other inappropriate material may lead to disciplinary consequences. That also includes filming or taking pictures of people, whether it's students or adults, without their permission, and posting it on various social media sites or sending it to each other.
A strategy for preventing code of conduct violations on the bus or in the school is knowing how to make responsible decisions. Making responsible decisions is part of social emotional learning. You should review this page very closely. The page informs students of what they can do to promote their own social emotional learning and growth. It lets you know what you can do when you're feeling a certain way, how you can set goals for yourself, and how they should relate to others, how they create positive relationships, and how to make responsible decisions. If you want to show the world how you're maturing into a fine adult, allow this page to guide your actions. It is relevant in whatever is going on in your life. Other areas that make up social emotional learning include self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. Again, use this information to demonstrate your maturity. This page is an opportunity for students to identify people who can support them when needed. The value of this page is that it allows students to identify specific people they trust to act in their best interest. Here, students should identify some of their closest friends, teachers, and whoever else they can rely on in a crisis. The information that we want students to provide here cannot be found in our student information. Note that this page has been perforated so the page can be easily torn out. Students should complete this page and turn it into their homeroom teachers for future reference. The page, along with 2 previous pages, are meant to be resources for students seeking support with their social emotional well-being. Students who come to school regularly feel more connected and perform higher academically. For this reason, the Maryland State Department of Education monitors student attendance and categorizes students according to the number of absences that they have. For example, a student who misses less than 11 days for the entire year has a low absenteeism rate. If you are between 12 and 17 days, you have a moderate absenteeism rate, and anything 18 or over is considered chronic absenteeism. This page shows the Hereford High specific attendance policy, which lists the reasons that we excuse and unexcused absences. It's also posted in every classroom for your reference. And as a reminder, BCPS Rule 5120 does state teachers are not required to provide makeup work to you if you are absent for an unlawful reason. As the Code of Conduct states, take responsibility for your actions and your education. Take responsibility for your attendance and absenteeism rate. You own your attendance and your absenteeism rate. They are what you make. A good attendance rate in high school and college on the job begins here. This is the Hereford High specific attendance policy, lateness specific to Hereford High. As a reminder, chronic tardiness is a Category 1 offense in the BCPS Behavior Handbook and will result in appropriate consequences. As a reminder for eligibility, students become eligible and ineligible on the day that report cards are published. Eligibility is based on your marking period GPA, which must be at least a 2.0 with only 1 failing grade. If your report card states that you are ineligible for extracurricular activities, it includes sports programs as well as academically sponsored clubs and activities. Honor societies as well may place a student on probation for a GPA that does not meet their standard of membership. After sitting for this presentation, students should acknowledge that they received the student handbook and they can understand the information mentioned in this presentation. You can provide their acknowledgement by completing and signing the paper form at the end of the handbook or logging into Focus and clicking on the electronic form. Parents and guardians can also provide their acknowledgement in writing or through the Focus Parent Portal. Directions for the electronic form are available. A new statement has been added to students to make them aware that they are not doing themselves any favors by not signing the acknowledgement form. Some students mistakenly believe if they do not sign the form, they cannot be held accountable for their behavior, which is not true. This new statement makes that point. In addition to the BCPS Handbook signature page, we are asking you to sign the Hereford Specific Behavior Handbook acknowledgement form. Your teacher will distribute and collect this page prior to dismissing. Thank you for your attentiveness during this handbook presentation. Please understand the information presented is an outline of more detailed policies and rules. Both students and their parents and guardians should access and read the policies and rules in full. Any questions about the information in the handbook or a specific policy can be directed to me or Mr. Kohler. On the screen is our contact information. Do not hesitate to ask questions. And as always,
Go Bulls. Students, at this time, please get out your devices, log into Focus, sign the electronic student handbook, and after you've completed it, sign the handbook form, the Hereford one that your teacher gave you. So before you leave homeroom today, both of those need to be signed. Go Bulls.